Hello again, good friends. Brian from Apex Detail. Today we are working on a 1956 Chevrolet that has Overspray. The Overspray is said to be an epoxy for kitchen equipment. I'm not exactly familiar with what type of Overspray that would be, but we're going to go through the different combinations and steps you could use to remove that Overspray. The very first thing we want to do is give it a wash. You want to remove any dirt or dust or grit that's on there because we don't want to add to any of the swirls or scratches we might be putting in here a little bit later as we choose some tools to remove this overspray. But to wash it, we don't want to use a foam or any free-flowing water because it is a classic. Classics and antiques, you want to use a rinseless wash. You don't want to trust the seals, especially if you do not know the car, if you're not familiar with the car. This way you could also get it cleaned up so you can see where the overspray is concentrated and what it is on. And it's on absolutely everything, but more concentrated towards the passenger side. Today we're just going to concentrate on removing it from paint. A lot of those ideas can be transferred to removing it from glass and trim and chrome and aluminum. And that'll do it. We have it nice and clean, so we're not driving grit or dirt or dust into the surface of the paint as we remove the overspray. Every day seems to be a new situation, a new problem to solve. It's why I love the job. I haven't worked a day in my life since I started doing this. It's so much good therapy for me. Let's start with a couple different ideas. This is single stage. It's very porous, so you can do it with chemicals, but I do not advise it. So when it comes to chemicals, Citral 266, Rapid Remover are my go-tos, and I'll just do a test area to show you how easy you can remove it from this painted surface. More so on clear coats, as long as you flush it quickly. On single stage, being very porous and I don't want it to swell, I'm going to go a different route, but I do want to show you this first. And here it is. You can see it removed easily from the area we were working on. The route I'm going to go today is using the clay bar, and we're going to use a fine grade first. If we have to, we can step it up to a medium grade or a coarse grade, but it's going to be clay, which will have to be followed up by polishing, of course, but I was planning on doing that anyway. I am going to use ONR first for the clay lube. There are many things you can use for a clay lube when you're removing overspray that can help aid with the overspray removal. We'll go over them. You'll see here that combination was successful. However, I believe I can be more effective and get it done quicker with something else to aid and use as a clay lube. The painted surface underneath the overspray, obviously not perfect as this is kept original and it pertains to the time period that it came from in the 50s. They weren't riding around in mirror-like cars, and he likes to keep his cars relevant to the 1950s, the mid-50s. All right, back to the job at hand here. Another small step up you can go from ONR is Optimum Opti Clean, and that will help aid in cleaning the surface a little bit better and remove some of that overspray quicker. You could take another small step up to a all-purpose cleaner cut, 5-to-1, 3-to-1. You don't want to use that full strength on the clear coat, as we're going to have to do the whole vehicle here. And then even another step up would be the Eastwood pre-painting prep. Now that would have to be flushed immediately after. And another thing to take into consideration doing it that way, it's going to break down your clay bar rather quickly. I go through 3 or 4 pieces of clay doing it with that method. Very successful and very fast, depending on what type of overspray it is. And I save that last step for some really stubborn epoxy. If that combination doesn't work, I'll step up yet again to one of the synthetic pads, such as the one I have here, or some of the mitts that you can stick your whole hand in. It's a lot larger, and you can get a larger section done at a time. You could also compound if you have to, depending on the overspray. And the most aggressive step I've ever had to take was 3,000 or 5,000 grit for overspray that has actually worked its way into the clear and became one with it. That will do it. Make your way all the way around the car and repeat that process from top to bottom, and the overspray will be completely gone. Nice and smooth. Time to polish, because every time I do this, it's going to have to be followed up with at least an enhancement or a one step, or if the customer wants to go even further, we can do a multi step correction. The customer chose a one step, so that leads me to go grab 3D1, of course, and we're going to team that up with the Max Shine M8 and a firm polishing foam pad. I'll just repeat this process all the way around the car. Won't take very long. We'll call it a day, and the customer will be extremely happy. That's going to do it for today's video. I hope it helped. The biggest thing is to try and identify the overspray, and I know a lot of the time you just can't. You just don't know what it is. So just start with the least aggressive method necessary, work your way up. If this helped, like the video, subscribe, share, hit that notification bell. That'll let you know when we have new videos.